Computer-generated imagery, or CGI, has transformed the modern film industry, from subtle digital matting and duplication effects designed to improve background scenery to complicated particle-rich digital light effects and even computer-generated characters. CGI technology has made it easier than ever to create convincing effects for even the most outlandish stories and settings. However, like any powerful tool, when CGI is mishandled and poorly implemented, the results can be disastrous. Here are 8 of the worst CGI scenes ever to appear in popular big-screen movies. Running from the green screen, King Kong, 2005. Director Peter Jackson's lifelong passion project, a remake and update of King Kong, was finally given the go-ahead after he proved he could generate nearly George Lucas levels of studio revenue with this trilogy of well-received Lord of the Rings films. And for the most part, Jackson's Kong, though far from perfect, is pretty solid. The actors have fun, the locations are memorable, and most of the plentiful CGI was really quite believable, the entire premise of King Kong notwithstanding. However, one infamous scene hangs like a cloud over this otherwise well-made movie, the dinosaur stampede scene. In it, the main characters of the film have to outrun a stampede of giant herbivorous dinosaurs. Unfortunately, due to low-quality green screening and questionable scene direction that has the characters ducking under and rolling around obviously CG dinosaurs, the audience never believes the dinos are actually there, even for a moment. It doesn't look so bad until the actors start moving, but once they do, it's all over. Tsunami Surfing, Die Another Day, 2002. This clunker is widely considered the nadir of the pre-Daniel Craig James Bond films. Despite a catchy theme song, Die Another Day is so corny it makes nearly every other Bond movie look good by comparison. It's also ambitiously over the top, nowhere more clearly than in an action scene where Pierce Brosnan's 007 outraces a gigantic orbital laser beam as it shears across a sheet of glacial ice. The laser moves a lot of the ice as it moves, creating an unrealistically tall wave that Bond then, somehow, windsurfs on until he reaches safety. Unfortunately, all the filmmakers had their leading man do was look intense and wobble back and forth on a surfboard a little bit. They decided to let CGI take care of the rest of the scene, with predictably laughable results. In wide shots of the action, it's plain to see that Brosnan has been replaced with a CGI body double, which flops around unrealistically and breaks the illusion of the whole stunt. Closer shots are just as bad, with a poorly done green screen backdrop that looked awful even when it was released in 2002. Pink Monkey, Lost in Space, 1998. Remember Bonzi Buddy? That adware program with the animated purple gorilla that your mother installed on the desktop of the family computer because it was cute and funny? Did you ever look at it and think, man, I've really got to see this gorilla perform in a feature-length movie? If so, the closest you're likely to get is Lost in Space, the disappointing 1998 film update to the 1960s TV series of the same name. In it, the characters, lost en route to a new life on another planet, run across some kind of pink, vaguely reptilian monkey thing. We're not quite sure what it is, to be honest, but it was clearly somebody's pet project, as the wide-eyed scamp becomes a part of the on-screen cast almost immediately. It's hard to describe just how awkwardly it was shoehorned into the film. There's never even the slightest question that it's not really there, due primarily to the absurd cartoonish design of the creature itself. They probably should have just gone for broke and done a Mary Poppins-style combination of traditional animation and live action. At least then they could have claimed the whole thing was meant to be whimsical. City Travelin', Catwoman, 2004. After Halle Berry won her Academy Award for the 2001 drama Monsters Ball, she almost immediately squandered her newfound clout by agreeing to star in this Batman spin-off film, widely regarded as one of the worst major studio releases of 2004, leaving aside the embarrassing costume design, wooden dialogue, and questionable CG of the early camera sweep over Gotham City. The final nail in the coffin of Catwoman is the main character's unrealistic, clearly computer-aided movements as she climbs and claws her way quickly across city rooftops and through buildings. It's almost impossible not to notice that in these scenes, Halle Berry, the human actress, has been almost completely replaced by a computer model that shares some textures with her, but no fine details. Computer Halle darts from point to point so quickly and so often that what starts out as an unrealistic but kinda neat special effect quickly becomes old hat, and then downright laughable. Bestial Transformations, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, 1997. As the follow-up to the beloved cheese fest that was the original Mortal Kombat movie, 1997's Mortal Kombat Annihilation was never going to be award-winning cinema. True to form, the sequel combines D-grade acting with flashy costumes and constant fighting, this time with only the barest hint of a story tying it all together. Nevertheless, it was a fairly major motion picture, reaching #1 at the box office on its opening weekend. Of course, this only makes the CGI sins even more egregious. The worst example of Mortal Kombat Annihilation's bad computer graphics comes when protagonist Liu Kang is fighting the evil sorcerer sorcerer Shao Kahn at the film's climax. Kahn transforms himself into a vicious hydra, and Liu Kang responds by transforming himself into a dragon, a skill he picked up earlier in the film. The two then have at it, fighting each other through the magic of choppy computer animation, unrealistic physics, improperly lit CG models, and one of the worst green screens this side of Escape from LA's infamous surfing scene. The Scorpion King: The Mummy Returns, 2001. For many people, The Mummy Returns was their first truly memorable brush with noticeably bad CG animation, so it's no wonder the film made this list. A much bigger hit than a lot of the other movies we've talked about so far, The Mummy Returns is the sequel to 1999's Brendan Fraser adventure vehicle, The Mummy, a liberal reinterpretation of Universal Studios' 1932 horror classic. It also marks the first film appearance of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the pro wrestling superstar who would go on to achieve enduring mainstream success as an actor. In The Mummy Returns, Johnson plays a character called the Scorpion King, and sure enough, when the plot calls for it, he transforms from the Rock we all know and love into a 100% CGI human-scorpion hybrid monster. The overall creature effect is rough around the edges anyway, but the real laughs only begin once we can clearly see Scorpion Rock's face. Instead of superimposing the actor's actual visage onto the beast, the film's creators opted to go for full CGI, with eerily lifeless eyes and unintentionally hilarious results. Spawn's Cape: Spawn Fights Violator in Hell, Spawn, 1997. 1997 cult film favorite Spawn does deserve some kudos for getting a few things right, including casting B-movie martial arts king Michael J. White as the eponymous anti-hero. The film also did a good job translating the comics' over-the-top character design to live action, good enough that it was even nominated for a Saturn Award in the Best Makeup category. However, when the film's effects make the jump from practical to CGI, the result isn't pretty. Case in point, Spawn's red cape, which follows its own lighting scheme not based on the lighting on the rest of the scene, and moves of its own accord in a very unconvincing, computer-generated way. The cape, though, is nothing compared to the shockingly awful final fight between Spawn, his companion Cagliostro, and primary antagonist Violator, inside a low-resolution, computer-generated hell that looks about as convincing as a child's crown drawing. Combined with putrid green screening and lackluster choreography, not even Spawn's decent costumes and character design can save this supposedly climactic fight from looking almost painfully unrealistic. Parallax: Green Lantern, 2011. Green Lantern, one of DC Comics' oldest and most beloved superheroes. GL finally got film treatment in 2011, well after films such as Marvel's Iron Man demonstrated that it was quite possible to have CGI-heavy characters flying around in the sky without sacrificing believability. And yet, somehow, even with a budget of about $200 million, Green Lantern was a complete train wreck. Protagonist Hal Jordan's flickering, glowing, all-CGI Green Lantern costume is bad enough, though, to be fair, some people are fans of the design. But the movie's gigantic, fear-based villain, Parallax, is really the last straw. Parallax moves quickly and kills humans on contact, and seems to get lumpier and lumpier as the film progresses. Even at its lumpiest though, it still might have been pretty terrifying if the filmmakers hadn't also decided to give it a goofy computer-generated skull face that seems to be constantly grimacing at everything. It's the cinematic equivalent of a cheesy animatronic prop at a second-rate haunted house, leaving audiences laughing rather than scared. So, there you have it. 8 of the worst examples of computer-generated effects in mainstream cinema. We know bad CG is everywhere, so if you missed your favorite example, let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe to CBR for more geeky lists and features.